Grants Pass, beauty in nature's embrace, nestled in green, a tranquil space. A town so fair, with rivers wide, now echoes with the hard times tide. Shelter scarce, the streets unforgiving, struggle seen, yet the spirit's still living. Taxes rise, debates get hot, finding solutions takes a lot. A town stands at a complex crossroads where hope and hardship share abodes. My name is Travis Moddison, and by training, my profession is a real estate broker. I work with Whole Heart Realty. When I started to make a video about Grants Pass, I thought, I'd make just a short film about Grants Pass and the parks and give an update maybe on where the lawsuit is that's in front of the Supreme Court.
Deborah says she's been cited for illegally camping in Grants Pass. She says there aren't enough shelter beds or affordable housing to keep people off the streets. And once they're on them, police can criminally cite and fine the homeless for illegal sleeping, illegal camping, and criminal trespassing.
The interviews, to me, were an important part of the story and a part that gets covered up. And when the news does cover this story, it's usually very short and doesn't have space to hear other voices. Please lower your expectations, as I really am an amateur. I've never done a film like this before, and I didn't really set out to. But when I got started, I realized that the people involved are so important. And there are so many nuanced ways to look at what's going on in Grants Pass right now that I needed to slow down, take my time, and do a good job. I hope that you enjoy it. I'd love a comment or a like or subscribe to my channel so I know if it's helpful to you or not. If it's not helpful, click off, and I'm sorry for wasting your time. So on Wednesday morning, I got done with my septic inspection and met the plumber to scope out the sewer line early. And I thought, well, I'll just go by the park and get some B-roll so I can make my normal real estate YouTube video. But my plan changed quickly when I met Rudy. In California, it was that way too?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I worked for the parks.
Oh, did you?
When I was down there.
So how'd you handle it?
Well, the police handled it.
How long have you been helping in this park for a while?
Since 2018.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I became a member then. I'm a master gardener.
Yeah, you are. Everybody talks about the parks being in terrible shape and...
Hey, you know what? I'm glad they cleared it up. You know, when they had that shooting?
Yeah. What Rudy is talking about is a murder that took place right here in Riverside Park in March of 2022. An argument between two people resting in the park led to a shooting, which unfortunately led to one death.
You can't safely walk through the park and not have a dog run out at you or something sketchy going on.
She says Monday's incident is not the first to happen at the park. Another person living close by said they weren't surprised there was a shooting there. Greg says she asked the mayor and police for help to fix the homeless issues at the park, but nothing has come of it.
There's no solution. All they say is that their hands are tied. They can't do anything because of the lawsuit. We can't touch the lawsuit until we have a shelter, but the people that we see down here aren't people that are going to go to a shelter.
And she's not wrong. This is my friend Yar, a.k.a. Ray, who I met in the park the other day, and he'll tell you he prefers this kind of life.
I'm going to tell you about everything right now.
Tell me.
You ready?
Yes. I did give Yar a little bit of money in order to talk with me.
I hit the road by choice, y'all.
Yeah.
By choice. My decision, because it's been in my blood my whole life. From that 53 Chevy Pam truck to an E250 van I drove for 21 years, that when I designed it, I bought it originally after busting my back 10 days after I started my company.
Yar went on to describe what I would call van life, which is popular on YouTube these days. But that isn't really what residents have been so upset about. And the lifestyle of camping out in the city parks has created a clash with local residents.
Grandkids, we can't take to the park because there's needles on the ground.
Remember Rudy? He had a very similar take.
You know, because kids, you can't bring your kids over here. Afraid of these people. I mean, not all of them are that way, but, it only takes a few to mess up for the majority.
Grants Pass Mayor Sarah Bristol sent out a statement Monday urging City Council to establish policies to improve safety in parks. She said, quote, "It is not acceptable to have people camping in our city parks. We have seen a significant increase in dangerous activities since 2020, when a court injunction was issued requiring the city to allow unhoused people to sleep in our parks. To date, the city council has not been able to come up with a plan for a shelter that would help move people out of parks and provide supervision and structure.
So I have been poring over the court cases here for the last several weeks. There's a lot to sort through in this case. There's just a lot to figure out, and there are many details and nuances to this case. It hinges on the Eighth Amendment.
Last year, the federal Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, you can't enforce those laws. They relied partly on a previous case, Martin v. Boise, that said you can't punish homeless folks for camping in your city unless you have a shelter bed available for them immediately and they refuse to take it. Otherwise, the court ruled it violates the Eighth Amendment regarding cruel and unusual punishment.
This is where the Eighth Amendment comes into play, right? Cruel and unusual punishment. I don't know about you, but if anyone's taking a blanket off you while you're asleep, that may seem a little bit cruel, and it's certainly an unusual thing to do. So this is where things start to get a little spicy in the community of Grants Pass, because they do have a homeless shelter, only it is known as the Gospel Rescue Mission.
The Gospel Mission is the only shelter in Grants Pass, and while it can't support all 1,700 people, it says it's rarely ever full.
At the women's facility for the last year, I've been at almost half capacity.
And there are some requirements. In fact, at the time the parties filed their summary judgment motions, there were only 4 locations in the city that temporarily housed homeless persons, which proved inadequate. One location was run by the Gospel Rescue Mission, an explicitly religious organization devoted to helping the poor. The Gospel Rescue Mission operated a facility for single men without children and another facility for women, including women with children. These 2 facilities required residents to work at the mission 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, in exchange for a bunk for 30 days. Residents were also required to attend an approved place of worship each Sunday, and that place of worship had to espouse traditional Christian teachings such as the Apostles' Creed. So you can probably see the conflict there. The community of Grants Pass looked at the gospel rescue as a viable option, whereas the courts said the barrier to entry was too high, that Grants Pass needed low barrier shelters. But what would set the city of Grants Pass on this path? Why would they consider making laws to criminalize actions inside the park? Well, court has pointed to a meeting from 2013 where they got together and essentially said, hey, what do we do to drive these people out of town to make them so uncomfortable that they want to leave? Of course, when you start talking about decriminalization, that has pulled in outside groups from outside of the area, which has created a lot of tension. One of the reasons there's that tension is because it has politicized the issue of homelessness, especially as it relates to Grants Pass. This outside politicization has rightfully upset many locals who are the ones who are here paying the taxes to use the parks. They've looked at it as a local issue that needs to be sorted out in Grants Pass, whereas outside groups have now elevated it to a national issue, which has created a lot of tension surrounding the court case.
And they gathered support from some unexpected people and places. California Governor Gavin Newsom, the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, the City of Phoenix, and many others submitted their own briefs urging the High Court to take up the case and help clarify how cities can respond to homeless camps.
As Rudy puts it, it makes sense that cities are involved because they're facing these same challenges in a lot of places.
It's everywhere, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at New York,
Yeah.
California, San Francisco. Look at San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. It's just...
What Rudy goes on to describe is how the residents came together and approached the city council, and the city decided to close down the park and privatize the park for the boatnik season coming up in May of 2022.
So the residents said, hey.
Yeah, so it was the residents that went to the council and said, hey, something got to be done. And they did. They closed it off, so it couldn't stay, which was excellent.
The city certainly recognizes there is a problem, and they're trying to do something about it.
Unfortunately, they've been unable to broker any kind of shelter agreement with the community. Every time they've proposed an urban campground, it has been met with swift and decisive response.
The All Care Community Foundation says it's pulling out of the proposed urban campground on N Street in Grants Pass. The Grants Pass City Council learned about the decision late last night. All Care would have provided money to buy that property, but the plan was not well received by some living near the proposed location.
During the public testimony about the urban campground and proposed locations in Grants Pass, there were a number of people who simply got up to the microphone and released some anger. I'm not going to show any of those because I don't know if they're really productive for this discussion, and they're entitled to their own opinion. However, there were also people that proposed real solutions and some good ideas, including people who have been there in that situation before.
As a former homeless individual myself, please understand that my suggestion is genuine. I want All Care and Rogue Retreat to succeed with this campground, and I honestly don't know if the council will find anywhere better in Grants Pass to kickstart this effort. I challenge All Care to offer these properties to improve their community relations by showing us that this project is safe and effective as they claim, and I challenge the City Council to push All Care for these properties in order to fast-track development of this effort to help the homeless now that it has been delayed after being set up for failure. Thank you.
The Supreme Court has agreed to take up the hearing and will hear the case on April 22nd, 2024. It'll be interesting to see what conclusions are drawn or to see which direction the court goes with this. Will the court push it back to the local municipality? Will the court ask the legislature for clarity? Will the court essentially say what we can and cannot do in city or county or state parks? Stay tuned. This one's going to be interesting to see how it sorts out. No matter what the Supreme Court says, it is not going to fix the problem, certainly not right away. As Kelly, the former director of UCAN, put it, there's something missing in this conversation in Grants Pass.
One thing I feel like is missing in this conversation, if you'll permit me to say so, is that we have no one of lived experience involved in this discussion. We're talking about them, but we're not involving them in this discussion. And I'm not quite sure how to successfully do that well, but I think that you don't have solutions on a problem without including the people that are affected by it.
In my opinion, the best way to find a solution going forward is to talk to the people in the situation. And I asked Shani that very question. What does she need right now? What are some things that could help her get to the next step?
If someone were to help you, what would be like one or two or three things?
Hold up a second. Did you hear that? She basically whispered it, but she said, awesome. That tells me that not enough people have asked Shani what she needs or how they could help. When you need help, isn't that a great place to start?
Yes. Find a place to live. Find a place to live. Get involved in something, anything that I enjoy. And have an income. And get rid of all the lies, and things that aren't true, and just live with what is true, non-delusional,
Is it hard to get a job right now in Grants Pass?
I don't know. I'm in trouble.
Why not?
I keep feeling like if I can't get past, the stuff I'm going through, I don't know how I'm supposed to work.
How long have you been out here?
A year.
In Grants Pass?
A year and a half. I lived here my whole life. I've been out here for a year and a half. Yeah, I don't like it.
What happened?
I was living with my roommate, and she kicked me out. I don't know, some things kind of got weird, and I don't know what was going on with her. She ended up asking me to leave, kicked me out. So I missed an appointment with our landlord, and so I left, and I've been out here ever since.
Maybe some drugs?
That was a part of it, but we both cursed, so I really didn't see how that was,
Yeah. How you doing with that now?
Okay.
Up and down?
Up and down, yeah.
Back and forth?
Yeah, not on a high end, it's pretty low.
Do you stay in the parks?
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Because my tags right now. Yeah, I was staying in the parks, but now that my tags are bad, I can't stay in the parks anymore.
Right, because they'll give you a citation or whatever for your tags being expired.
Right.
Are the parks safe, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
For the most part, yeah.
How old are you, Shani?
37.
37?
I also talked to Yar about the impact of drugs and what it's like living in a car in Grants Pass.
I started off in Southern California.
Yeah.
Born in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. Kaiser Permanente Hospital. Then Compton. Raised most of the years there. Catholic school, over the river, stay away from the problems of the late 60s. White boys doing their glue and the Crips and the Bloods. Go to the Catholic school, Downey, 71. Wandered, got job. Went over to Colorado. This is what you want to hear?
Yeah, dude, I want to hear it.
Where are you from?
I live
What's
north.
your name again?
I live north of town. My name's Travis. So
you live near Applegate?
No, other direction.
My folks lived up 238. That's what ties me to this area.
Okay, so you came here.
Because I went to Colorado.
Yeah.
To go into forestry, which my partying habits for lots of something away from studying habits. I got a job, worked it up, Pooter Canyon. I'm going in and doing this. Thank you. I appreciate this. I appreciate this too.
You're welcome.
Going in the gas, you know that.
Yeah, whatever.
These are my own marks. That's from this dog.
Dude, you don't have
the dog I got in the back.
You don't have to justify anything to me. So
I love YouTube. YouTube has kept me active, my brain going, especially since I got out of my depressed years and decided I need to live life and I need to really live it.
Ray's autobiography bounces around from place to place, and you've got to give him credit for being honest about his struggles with depression. But you'll also notice Ray is pretty darn smart too.
We diverted it in the movie Centennial, a book by James Michener, excellent writer, starts off from the base. You're familiar with James Michener?
I'm not. No.
His books are about that thick, thicker than a Bible. They have more pertinent information because it's all facts of the development of the land.
Yeah.
The people that inhabit it. Buffalo, the buffalo funeral falling over cliffs. And he is, make them fall. You don't have to kill them all. We just pick. Usually when a white man shows that oil, Platte River.
Platte River is the Oregon Trail. Oregon Trail, right?
Platte River is the widest, shallowest river.
There's an interesting book, actually, about the Oregon Trail. It's a lived experience book by a guy named Breaker Buck. Trust me, it's really good. In the early 2000s, he and his brother take the trip. It's worth a read. You may recall it's been considered by many the largest land migration in human history, and it took place right before the Civil War. As they were trying to get to the Willamette Valley, there was a certain group that was looking for a cutoff and an access to southern Oregon. As it turns out, there was an early pioneer named Jesse Applegate who came to this area and discovered an overland route. But it was harder and more complicated, densely forested area than any other part of the trail. And so the people that successfully made it along the Applegate corridor or the Applegate Trail cutoff were really tough and hardy people. The people that were here were also tough, and they had become tough because of the environment and the surrounding area. That was their lifestyle. The clashes that took place here were dramatic and very deadly. 2 books written by Daniel Edgerton called The War Drums Along the Rogue. It covers the Rogue Indian Wars that ended roughly around 1856. That conflict and that spirit of rugged individualism, the rogue, if you will, is still here and alive in this part of the valley. I talked to Tina a little bit about what that meant and what she has found to be an effective way for helping people. She highlighted the importance of human relationships and the battle for fighting addiction, but also in just managing the local parks.
So really what it is that more and more people are becoming homeless, and there's not a net for them for when they get to that point. Biggest problem is that if people become homeless, they have to come here to sleep. They have to go to the class. It's the only place they're allowed. So they have to move every 3 days. They get a lot of harassment. Now we're talking about people who aren't using. If you're homeless and you're not using drugs, what are the chances of you using drugs after a while when this is where you end up?
Yeah, well, yeah, good. That's a fair point.
Your life is in despair.
Yeah.
And people are offering you some suggestions, right? Because misery loves company.
Misery does love company.
It's true.
You're right.
Really what the solution is to grab people either when they first become homeless or before they become homeless and help them grow, like arm in arm.
Got it.
And part of the problem is right now people are locked them in the pit because of fentanyl. And fentanyl is grabbing people's souls, truly. and it's nearly impossible to get off of it without some kind of medical intervention. And there's not a lot. They have 10 beds in Medford for medical intervention.
Is any of that Measure 110 related, do you think?
It's totally.
Yeah.
See, Measure 110 was supposed to be where you would give somebody an option. They get caught with drugs, and you would give them an option. Do you want to go to jail? Which is actually pretty good for people if they could keep them for 3 days. Because then you can get somebody in there to talk to them, and they have a sober mind at that for 3 days, sober mind. Or they go to treatment. Well, what treatment? We have 10 beds in Medford that are for detox. Everybody needs to go through detox. Unless you go to jail and you go through detox naturally, which is really tough on people who are alcoholics or opiate users because they need medical detox.
Yeah.
Meth, get off of meth easy. It's an easy drug.
So fentanyl is one of those. Fentanyl needs the medical in order to detox.
Opiates leave that medical intervention. Otherwise, it could be that.
And we're not talking about, what is that, Narcan? Narcan is for when they overdose. Narcan doesn't help them get off the drug.
No, there are agencies that are in place now where if people overdose on Narcan, on opiates, and they do Narcan them, they have a time of sobriety, and so we get people in there to talk to them then.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just get up and keep walking. Crazy. It's terrible. It literally is. It's an epidemic, and it's killing people. Literally. It's really killing people. People are overdosing all the time. And if it weren't for Narcan, people would be dropping like flies.
So your pathway is, hey, let's give you a meal, meet them, talk to them, see what they need, try to get them.
Yeah, get to know them.
Yeah.
Because this week they might not be ready, but next week they might be. Or maybe they're partially ready, but they're not quite sure to commit.
Right.
It is a seriously stepping out of one life into another life. Everything you knew here needs to be gone in order for this to work.
Sorry, I didn't catch this gentleman's name, but he highlights it's not just who you think it might be that's homeless in the park.
You know the trouble down at Morrison Park there, but they've been living in the park and their kids. Well, this past week, they got up, went to the bathroom. They come back, this little tooth they got, everything gone. Down in police cars, hauled off. When they came back from the bathroom, everything was, took everything. Took everything they had.
The thing is that they most likely had a notice and they didn't know how to process. I know one couple out there, and they're elderly, and both of them have dementia.
Wow.
So how do you help somebody who doesn't know they need help?
So it's not all people doing fentanyl. It's not all drug addicts. It's not all criminals. It's not a monolithic population. What's the next practical step?
The practical step is to have a place for people who are able to live. Even if it's a little shed, anything for stability. If they're not using already, they're going to end up freezing, or they're going to end up being a victim, or they're going to end up losing anything that they still have, just like that couple did. So they need to have a place to stay regularly, not just at night, just during the day, like 24/7, and they need to have case management.
An adult who can help them. Hey, let's get you in touch with this resource and that resource, and yeah.
Agencies, or even individuals who want to volunteer and take somebody else on as a friend.
Is that what y'all are doing? Look, you guys even put out flowers, and that's awesome.
So we've been doing this probably for about 5 years, not necessarily super consistent with this because of COVID.
Yeah.
But when we have people in our lives that were in our lives 5 years ago, now finally getting out. But the community has come together. It's not just a couple little places. It is a huge community out here. And it's absolutely beautiful because the bridges are being built, and it's like the roughest time, and people are coming in to take care of it.
Tina had a lot of great information and a really unique vantage point that I'm glad we were able to share with you. The interviews, to me, were an important part of the story and a part that gets covered up. And when the news does cover this story, it's usually very short and doesn't have space to hear other voices. Remember Rudy? He had some very specific thoughts on what the root cause of the homeless issue is and how it impacts the parks.
What do you think the biggest problem is?
A lot of it's housing. Because people may raise the rent, $1,000, $2,000 for a little place. People can't survive on that, especially if they're on Social Security.
Yeah. How tough is it for people to buy, too?
It is. Oh, yeah. Especially when your interest rate, it was, 7? Now it's 6.99. And then they're planning to go up again, and then price of houses, because there aren't so many, the price of houses go up.
Yeah.
So if you're a first time trying to buy a house, you can't afford it.
Housing is obviously something that's very important to me, and it's something that we will be covering. We'll talk about how Oregon has attempted to expand housing opportunities, and in some ways is leading the nation. But for now, at the crossroads of fate, uncertainty looms. A town facing shadows and turbulent gloom. Community voices rise in debates they partake, navigating complexities, decisions at stake. Resilience whispers through streets worn and old. In the face of adversity, stories are untold. Challenges ahead and the struggles we face, yet hope flickers softly in this beautiful space. Nestled in green, a tranquil embrace, granting solace in the uncertain chase.